You think Mick's going to be stiff on me? I don't think.
I think he will.
No.
There's ribs.
But I don't think. I think Mick's going to say something real smart, sounding like, Bubba, out of all the people I've worked before, you think your dumb ass would be worthy of me putting over? I mean, because he's real spiritual like that. Like he's an old timer, like, protects the business and things like that. He probably thinks I'm a
jobber.
Well, I am I mean, in the overall scheme of thing, I'm the biggest jobber ever. Is that Mick? Is he on hold?
Here.
Ready to go. Hey, Mickey, it's Bubba. How you doing?
You're giving me way too much credit for being spiritual and wise.
You listen. You're like one of the old in the business, man. The boys know that when Mick says something, like Mick's always real even keeled, he's real fair, and he always does what's right for the business. That's the reputation you got. You know that.
Well, I appreciate it.
Mick Foley's not going to be the guy that's talking smack about a kid. That you haven't fairly judged him. You know how the guy's always talking smack about people. You're not that guy. You're fair.
Yeah, I try to be. And then, for example, when I go to Mr. McMahon with something, it's like, it's Mick Foley. He doesn't bother me very often.
Mick Foley's here.
Must be important.
Yeah. Mick Foley. One time, didn't you get heat with Vince back? I think I kind of remember it, Mick. You were doing play-by-play or commentary, and somebody started chiming in on your earpiece, and I think you cut a real promo on him, didn't you?
It wasn't somebody. It was Mr. McMahon. Yeah, and I've talked to baseball analysts, basketball analysts, and I've said does a producer get in your ear and yell at you? And they're like, what? What do you mean? They're like, well, they don't force you to say things that you don't think help the product. They're like, no, why? And I was like, well, that's kind of what our job entails. And I knew that going in. And I did, when I was asked about the job, I said, I know I've heard you can be pretty tough out there on the announcers. He said, I've changed.
I've changed, Mick. I've changed. I don't sit in the gorilla position now and chime in on your UFP saying, Mick, put this over more. Stop that. Do this. Do that. Mick, come on.
The one time I made the mistake, and I know you're not supposed to call the title a belt, even though anywhere outside WWE is referred to as a championship belt. And there was a big display case, where guys were going to be, I don't know if it was up in the air or up for grabs, somebody been injured or whatever, and I said, there it is, there's that championship belt. That title that means so much, that signifies, and I kept trying to explain it away, and then I heard, it's not a belt.
It's not a belt, Mick. You should have really made him mad and called it a strap. That would have really made him mad.
Oh, a strap would have, yeah. I mean, I had in my notes, there's all kinds of things.
What do they want you to call it, Mick?
A championship title.
Oh, a championship title.
It says it is never under, in your list of 5 pages of notes, it's never it's not a belt, and it is absolutely never a strap.
Strap would be the same thing as kid touching. You can never call it a strap, right?
Never, no, never. You're in big trouble there, and he's not big on pronouns. He wants full names every time. And I'm like, Mr. McMahon, I've done some writing. I think once you identify the subject, then use the pronoun. And he's like, no pronouns, which, we're like he, she, it. So you will hear the name of the superstar repeated over and over. Mark Henry, he's got a bear hug. Mark Henry, we're really working on that bear. Mark Henry, you just repeat it over and over. But I guess there's some method to his madness because he remains, on top of the game.
He is. We sit here and we're just having fun at Vince's expense. But my God, how could you ever really, at the end of the day, have heat with him and what he's done? He's the guy. He's the guy.
And you know what I find, Bubba? I find that I'm not a great voice guy, but I've got 5 voices I do pretty well when I'm doing my show. And I find that doing Mr. McMahon's voice, it just brings me happiness. It just.
And it's always probably a stiff deal too. It's never a real happy deal. It's always, anytime you're doing your Vince McMahon impersonation, it has to be either you're fired or it's always a stiff deal, isn't it?
Yeah, well.
Now, is Vince Mick Foley on the phone? Don't forget, next Friday and next Saturday, Ocala on Friday. Saturday, he'll be at the Laugh-In Comedy Cafe in Fort Myers. You can get information through always Mick stuff, but you can also go to laughincomedycafe.com. Wanted to get that part out first, Mick. Now, are you doing a stand-up, spoken word kind of life of Mick Foley kind of deal?
Yeah, in Fort Myers, I am. It's 20 years of hell. It's really taken off. It's almost like you take a say you take an independent wrestler and you say you can do any move, you can say anything on the microphone, and they're lost because there's so much to select from. And in this case, I thought, all right, it's 20-year anniversary of this infamous match. I'm going to get into as much detail, find as much humor in most unlikeliest of places, also find the surreal stuff, the touching stuff, and every night I try to make it a little better to the point where I'm really proud of this show. It's not like people go and go, what is he going to talk about? Is he going to tell jokes? Is he going to talk politics? Like, no, this is just about this match. And
well, just on the surface, Mick, there's almost a lot of people know about the match, but walk us through the 20-year anniversary of what you call the match, because people that are wrestling fans, or just Mick has a real liberal but yet conservative but yet fair perspective of life, and the things that he's seen, and he's got Ric Flair stories, and he's got obviously, Mick, I would think that probably this week or in your next shows you'll probably talk about Leon. Leon passed away yesterday.
I've been talking about Leon anyway. I'll point out, and I don't want to walk you through the whole show, so I don't give it away.
Can't give it away on TV. We got to take you to the pay-per-view. We can't give it away on TV for free now, can we?
Exactly. Just let me point out, first of all, that Ocala is a little bit different deal. That's a 100% benefit show I'm doing for Dory Funk, where I'll be doing a meet and greet, a Q&A, and playing a role in the wrestling show without wrestling.
Right.
And also, when we get to Fort Myers, it's largely a charitable deal. It's 50% of the door and 100% of the merchandise go to a group called the Believe in Santa Claus Foundation, and they help spread cheer to the the people who need it most, children in hospitals, children living beneath the poverty line. And it's a great group. I know the guy, and I wanted to do something special while I was in Florida. And so there'll be two different types of appearances. But I've been talking about Leon anyway.
And wait, for those scoring at home, Leon is Leon White.
Vader.
And he's Vader, the globally successful worker named Vader. Real name was Leon, and he was really, really very special. Mick and him had a really good relationship, and he passed away. Was it yesterday, Mick?
Yeah. Monday night. We found out about it yesterday.
Anyway, so I'm picking it up from there, Mick. I just had to backfill it a little bit there, bud.
Well, I'll go in. I'll talk about this match, this cell match, almost being symbolic of everyone who's ever gone the extra length, like, to get to the finish line. Like, that's one thing. It's almost instilled in the guys. It's like, it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get over there. And in the course of trying to get to the finish line, you have these, like, real surreal acts of heroism that you wouldn't see in a real sport, because they take timeouts in real sports. So, and I'll mention, like, Leon White was a guy who actually pushed his eyeball back into his socket to continue what some people would call a fake wrestling match. And I don't think Stan Hansen or Leon ever got the memo about the fake stuff, because it was about as real as it got.
Or you. I mean, you are the stiffest, most shootingest, getting. I mean, man, your gigs, half of them were hard and hard way, but a lot of it was just straight spuds. You got spudded more than anybody.
Oh, well, and you were a recipient of one of my spuds.
But you know what, Mick? I hate to. We're going to get into that, but you know what? That wasn't a spud. You didn't spud me. You didn't. I swear to God, you didn't. No, you did. I mean,
all this time I thought I had.
No,
I'm so proud of it.
You didn't spud. Well, you son of a bitch! You wanted to spud me. God, did they pop on that or what? Oh my God!
Great, man. I hope you called the Bubba Army off on me and said I was just.
Oh, listen. The Bubba Army knows that I love you, and boy, I got to tell you. In fact, we were talking about earlier. I don't mean to get away from the Leon deal, but when you hit, we were going to say, like, out of all your top 5 hits, where you came in as a baby or reverse the heat or whatever, was you hitting me or spudding me one of your biggest pops that you got, when you're hurting somebody.
Yeah, because it took on a life of its own. There was a time when some of the Army was angry at me. And it was you doing your job. You were kind of ridiculing me a little bit, I think, when I left I lost a loser. Loser leaves.
And we talked about it a little bit. We both went kind of impromptu. Here it is, right here. Let me play. Let me just play it real fast for you, Mick. Hold on here. Here it is. Oh, damn it! 20. I got it. Let me get my. Let me pull my music down. Of course, I had that.
You got it.
Here we go. So this is I'm doing like a backstage, TNA kind of deal, and Mick loses, a loser leaves town kind of deal, and I got to. God damn it! Where the hell is all that coming from? Where's my music coming from, guys? Let me try to stop this damn Jackson Brown. There we go. Okay. So Mick, I'm working for TNA barely, and Mick, I don't know if you were leaving or what kind of angle were you leaving, Mick, and that's why they were shooting that angle.
I think the deal was, in the scheme of things, when I've been brought in, I was the non-wrestling talking guy on the show, and then of course, when the Hulkster became available and Eric Bischoff became available and Rick became available, Dixie Carter seized that opportunity. And so that I was like one non-wrestling talking guy too many, and I believe I was being sent out on a little sabbatical.
But I wouldn't. I mean, as much as a shoot as this was, I really am your friend, and I mean, I really didn't mean this, Mick. I hope you didn't think that. Hold on, here it is. Hold on.
Your last match ever with TNA Wrestling. Let's talk about it, kiddo.
I'd rather not. Now's not the time. Okay, Bubba?
So, Mick's, Shakespearean off, right, Mick? Place that I just watched it, they cut out Bang Bang because that would be an inference of. That's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little crazy. Yeah, never thought of that actually that came from the song Love Shack, where
right?
He went bang, bang, bang. Yeah.
Have you ever disclosed that before, Mick? Where Bang Bang came from?
Yeah, I did on my WWE interview. There was great speculation, and it was just or interest,
I have a bit of Mick Foley information, a little trivia that most people don't know.
Let's hear it.
He's a fellow Hoosier.
That's right.
Bloomington, Indiana.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know. You don't claim Bloomington very often, do you?
Well, only when I'm in Bloomington. Then, of course, I pander to that.
When you're in Indiana, and you want to put yourself over a little bit, right?
You have to, yeah. I will, because I moved around a lot wrestling. Yeah, I've got about 18 different states I can claim I lived in at some point or another. So, I've been known to pander to an audience, including yours, right there in the Sunshine State.
Mick Foley on the phone, and Mick will be in Ocala next Friday helping out a wrestling show and doing some stuff, and then he's going to do a spoken word stand-up deal in Fort Myers then on that Saturday. Mick, let's talk about Vader. He died Monday night, Tuesday, and I know that Vader was really, really, special to you. You and him worked, I think, in the original WCW stuff, didn't you? Is when you first worked.
Yeah. I went back. I knew I wanted to say some things, but I also knew that I'd spent several hours a couple of years ago trying to do a forward worthy of the guy, who I think is the most glaring omission by not being in the Hall of Fame. And it's a shame he'll probably be inducted posthumously, but it meant so much to him. It would have meant so much to him.
Now, Mick, not to interrupt you, but being a 2013, I think, inductee, and then when you get, inducted, after you died, is it a little bit less respectful? Because Leon obviously was a guy that could have been, in your class or the next, very worthy of it. Is it kind of a slap in the boy's face when it has to happen afterwards?
Not necessarily, but I think in this case, when we knew his health was poor and he had a diagnosis of 2 years, I thought I urged the sooner rather than later, and it didn't happen. But Leon was a top guy in WCW, and the problem I had when I became a good guy or a babyface is that my heel character had been built up for over 2 years of being a guy who thrived on pain and almost enjoyed it or did enjoy it. So that when we got to the heat part of the matches, when a good guy's supposed to garner sympathy, it was hard to feel bad for a guy who the audience had been conditioned to think was enjoying himself. And
it's tough for you to sell. It's tough for you to sell the heat when you get off on the heat, usually, right?
Yeah, that was the problem. They were with the character, but they weren't getting with the sympathy like you need them to. And so I set up a meeting with the American Dream And I said, you know who I do get sympathy with? And he said, who's that? I said, Vader. And because
he's such a heel too, isn't he?
Yeah, he was a great heel, and for people who only saw him in WWE, they weren't seeing the real Vader. And I'm not trying to knock WWE, but I said, basically until they tried to fix something that wasn't broken, he drew up money everywhere he went. I just thought,
well, and he was global, and he was even more globally over. Like he was way over. Global.
Oh, he was iconic in Japan. Feared and everywhere he went, he was money. Whether it was Austria and Germany for a different promotion, that was one of the things I thought was so great about him, is that he wasn't a guy like me who had one great run in one promotion and it was otherwise a respected journeyman. I mean, he was like the man everywhere he went, and I don't think that was really taken into consideration. So, yeah, Dusty and I came up with a storyline. And it was like, a broken nose and 20 stitches later, and that we weren't having any more problems with sympathy.
No. Well, it's tough for a person to get heat with you because the average wrestling fan's like, man, that smash upside the head ain't going to hurt Mick Foley. I'll tell you that right now. That little bit of blood right there, that ain't nothing for Mick Foley. He's going to come back here with that sock deal here and whip some ass. I'm telling you that right now.
That's pretty much what it was.
Were you sad when, obviously, I think, and I don't know if I'm right, but I think you were inspired a lot by Jimmy Superfly Snuka. And I know Jimmy obviously, had some problems towards the end there, but were you close with Jimmy?
I wouldn't say I was close with Jimmy, but I will say that when I talked in '97 about what his leap off the top of the cage had done for me in '83, I remember Tamina, his daughter, who came up to me before she got in the business, she said, "Thank you so much for what you've done for my father," kind of shone a light on what he had done. And specifically, I remember the way I felt being in that arena. And not to sound overly dramatic here, but my whole career was based on trying to get people to feel that way, the way that I felt when I was in there with him. But I was there. His mind was slipping to the point where when Jimmy came out to help me celebrate my birthday, I think it was the one wrestling birthday celebration that didn't involve a cake in someone's face. His wife said, you have to be careful what you say. Jimmy thinks he trained you. So his brain was slipping. His body was giving out on him. And I remember one time at a benefit show, he still did the Superfly Splash because I was the referee. And he knew how much it meant to me. Yeah. He was definitely an inspiration.
Weren't you trained? I think you were trained by Dominic, weren't you?
Yeah, I'm a Danucci guy. Yeah. So I got to see Dominic for the first time in a while last week, and he'll be coming to the Pittsburgh show is June 28th. It's been sold out for a long time, and it's 20 years to the day of the Cell. And that was supposed to be the end of the tour. And then I just, but I mean, Bubba, it's going so well. I'm like, man, why did I limit myself to 20 dates? And
no, you can't do 20 dates, Mick. 20 dates ain't nothing for you. Back when you were running hard, what were you guys? Maybe working 5 and getting 1.5 off back in the day?
Yeah, we were running pretty hard here.
Back in the day, Mick, were you like one of the old timers back in the day where you guys would do like, I think Hogan used to talk about doing like a Philadelphia matinee and then a Madison Square Garden nighttime deal?
Occasionally. By the time I got in there, they'd made some sense of it. I think when the Hulkster, when they went national, no one had ever done it before, so no one knew how to do it. And they were essentially just, now they'll fly into like a hub, like right. They'll fly into, Dallas, and they'll do 5 shows in the Texas area, and then maybe they end up flying out of Houston or something. But back in the early mid-'80s when Vince went national, mid-'80s, it was just like, boom, here we are in Idaho. Next day you're in Maine. The next day you're in Seattle.
So some of Hogan's best stories talks about him and Brutus getting a rental car and being on the road. They fly into New Jersey, and then they do the Philly, and then they do New York, and then maybe Boston, and you have like a rental car, and you always get full insurance because you'd smash up the rental car just as a rib, and then the rental cars wouldn't even rent to the boys anymore. Is that true?
I don't know. It may have been true at that time.
Terry would say they couldn't even go to Hertz anymore because they were like blacklisted because they would, they would just smash them up so much. Mick Foley on the phone. Mick will be next Friday helping Dory. You're helping the Dory promotion out, aren't you?
Yeah, Dory and his wife have a great promotion there in Ocala. It's a real cool, intimate building called Bang TV Studios. And I'll make it a lot of fun.
Man, Dory's Dory's an old timer, isn't he, man? Oh man, what an old timer. And then Saturday night at the Laugh-In Comedy Cafe, more of a spoken word kind of stand-up deal that Mick does. Mick, tell me about I think that you're one of the very forefront people talking about CTE, concussion syndrome, within the pro wrestling world, and I think you and maybe the Hardy kid Jeff have made an announcement with regards to when you die, you're going to donate your brain to study to see the effects of what the bumps and all the stuff that you guys did. Is that did I read that right?
Yeah. I think I have to renew the paperwork. That's a tough day in the year when you're signing that deal, renewing your commitment to helping others learn from your mistakes.
People don't realize, man, how much trauma. They've scaled a lot of the high spots back nowadays. We know that, but your era and the era before you, and even the era somewhat after you with the Hardy Boys. I mean, those guys. I mean, I don't know if the guys are working like that anymore, but man, just the amount of it's hard telling realistically, Mick, how many concussions you've really had. I mean, you may have had a concussion every night.
Well, when the we always thought concussions were something that where you threw up in the parking lot, you couldn't remember some periods of time, and I was like, okay, I probably had 8 of those.
8.
And then when Dr. Cantu started asking me about seeing stars, and I mean, this is not meant to be funny. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, if you saw stars, that's a brain injury. And I was like,
it would probably be easier
every night.
I was getting ready to say, I hate to interrupt you, but it would probably be easier for you to tell us the amount of matches that you didn't see stars in, right?
Yeah, there were things I did that, in retrospect, had I known, I could have just changed up a little bit, and no one would have known the difference. But at that point, it shows you how far we've come in a short while. Like, seeing stars was a sign to me that it looked good.
So Mick, out of all the high spots you've ever done, hardcore, see stars, knocked out, throw up in the parking lot, which one in particular do you think you may have hurt yourself the most, that you may not have put over at the time, and you just sucked it up as doing business, and I got to do this to make a living, because it's what the gimmick is. What do you think the one particular high spot that people could recount that you did that might have hurt you more than you led to?
Well, in retrospect, Bubba, there was one item I should have left off the menu entirely, and that was what we would refer to as the Nestea plunge, just going backwards from the ring apron to the concrete, back first. And since I had my chin tucked, I thought, well, you can't get a head injury unless you hit your head, and then you don't realize that every time you do that, and I may have only done it 15 times over the course of a lengthy career, but it's like being in a car accident and your brain is being jolted. Like, I dread to think of what a talented team of neurologists, skeletal structurists, orthopedists would think if they could see these things in slow motion that we did. We just chalked it up to being almost immortal when we were out there.
And by the way, I got one. I got one right here to play real fast.
Who's there? What in the world? Oh, God.
It's when it worked as Cactus Jack, and you completely. Yeah. I think it would have been. Was it the Milk Guy? The Mil
Mascaras, yeah.
Yes, this is the one I'm playing right now. Oh, I mean, Mick, chin tucked or not, I mean, I don't know if your body's supposed to just stop on concrete like that, buddy.
No, it's not.
Hold on. Oh, God! And not even on the mat, Mick. Right on the concrete, buddy. Jeez. I think your next book needs to be I Sputted Myself Out of the Business. And I'm just working, and I'm just messing with you.
I know. Well, what's nice is I was asked by a friend of mine about these concussions. And the friend was rightfully concerned about me. I said, you know what? Like, I've seen the specialists, and they tell me that what I do on stage, which is a combination of remembering stories and material, creating new material, and then playing off the crowd. It's like the best form of mental gymnastics for the brain. So I'm constantly working on stuff. I'm going out there now without a single note. Nice thing is I'm unlike the past years where I would get in a chair because I was barely mobile. I'm moving around a lot better.
You got a new knee, didn't you? You got a new knee.
Right knee, right hip. Lost a bunch of weight, with wiser choices and DDP yoga, and so I feel really good when I'm out there. I've got to run to a doctor's appointment now.
Jesus,
Bubba.
Mick, this is the best interview you've ever done. Nobody can interview like me, bitch. Come on, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate it.
Let's do it again, Mick. Let's do it again because I'm all about promoting anything you're doing. I've always been a big fan of yours. I'm a great friend, and anything that you're doing, whether it's a new book, I think St. Mick just came out last year, didn't it?
Yeah, that's like a real specialty item for people who share my obsession with Christmas. But it's something I was proud of. Sometimes you just do the book or the project you want to do without giving any attention to whether or not there's a readership. So I'm really proud of that, and I love doing these shows. So I hope people will come and
we'll promote it all this week and then remaining of next week. But man, if you got some time. Next week, Mick, maybe a day or a couple nights before the show or whatever, if you want to do a last-minute push, I'd love to have you. We could talk wrestling and the business all day, buddy.
Would love to do it. Thanks for having me on this morning.
And good luck at the doc, okay, bud?
All right.
Hey, tell Colette and the kids hi.
I sure will.
All right, man.
Okay.
Thanks, Mick. Bye. I think that interview, I don't do a lot of interviews with wrestlers, but I think with that guy, and I'm sure that, a bunch of people are hating on it, and it went too long, 27 minutes. But I think that because I have some friends in wrestling and I dabbled in it a little bit, I can do a different type of interview than one that comes from, necessarily a guy that watches wrestling. I think it's a little more insider, in my opinion. What do you think?
Or
did you fall asleep?
No, that was good.